This is what happens when you fully surrender to God. You've been fighting battles that were never yours to fight, carrying burdens that were never yours to carry, crying silent tears while wearing a public smile. And the truth is, you're exhausted, weary, tired of running in circles, tired of praying and then picking the problem back up after you said you laid it down, tired of saying, God, I surrender, but deep down, still trying to control what only He can fix. But this right here is what happens when you truly surrender everything to God. When you finally reach the end of yourself, when you come to the place where your strength runs out, that's where God begins. That's where transformation happens. Surrender is not defeat. It's not weakness. It's the doorway to divine power, peace, and purpose. It's the place where miracles are born, where chains are broken, and where heaven touches earth. God has been waiting. He's not angry with you. He's not disappointed. He knows your heart. He knows how hard it's been for you to let go. He knows the pain, the trauma, the fear of what if I give this up and nothing changes. But let me tell you, everything changes when you surrender, because surrender is not the end. It's the beginning of something supernatural. When you let go of the wheel, God doesn't just steer the ship. He calms the storm. When you stop striving, He starts fighting for you. The moment you say, God, I give you my will, not just my words, heaven stands at attention. Angels are dispatched. The enemy starts shaking because a surrendered soul is a weapon in the hands of God. Do you want peace? Do you want clarity? Do you want breakthrough? Then stop trying to manipulate the outcome. Stop clinging to the pain like it's your identity. Stop bargaining with God as if you're in control. Surrender is not saying, God, here's my plan, bless it. Surrender is saying, God, here's my life, break it, use it, shape it, move in it, and glorify yourself through it. You've been stuck in cycles because you've only given God part of you. You let Him in on Sunday but shut the door Monday through Saturday. You say, I trust you, but then you panic the moment it doesn't go your way. But God is not asking for your perfection. He's asking for your heart, not just the clean parts, all of it. The messy, broken, fearful, wounded, sinful parts. That's what He wants. That's what He redeems. That's what He transforms. Remember the woman at the well? She came to draw water, hiding from people, ashamed of her past. But when she encountered Jesus, everything changed. Why? Because she surrendered. She didn't come with a script. She didn't try to pretend. She came with honesty, with vulnerability, and He gave her living water in return. She ran back to the town that once judged her, transformed, bold, unashamed, declaring, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. That's the power of surrender. When you surrender, God doesn't just change your situation. He changes you. He changes your appetite. You no longer crave the things that kept you in bondage. He shifts your perspective. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what are you teaching me? He replaces your fear with faith, your anxiety with assurance, your pain with purpose. Some of you have been holding on to relationships God already told you to release. Some of you have been fighting for positions He never called you to occupy. Some of you are chasing validation from people who can't even see your value. And God is saying, will you trust me enough to let it go? Will you believe that my no is a setup for a better yes? Will you surrender your timeline, your expectations, your reputation, and trust that I have something greater on the other side of your obedience? Because here's what happens when you fully surrender. God takes over. He breathes on your dry bones. He opens doors no man can shut. He gives you favor you didn't earn, blessings you didn't expect, peace that doesn't make sense, and joy that the world can't take away. Surrender is how David defeated Goliath, not with his own strength, but by trusting God to guide the stone. Surrender is how Moses parted the Red Sea, not by his own authority, but by lifting what God gave him and watching God move. Surrender is how Jesus overcame death, by saying in the garden, not my will, but yours be done. That prayer changed the world, and your prayer of surrender can change your world too. But here's the raw truth. Surrender is not always pretty. Sometimes it means ugly crying in the middle of the night. Sometimes it means walking away from what you thought you couldn't live without. Sometimes it means being misunderstood, looked over, left out. But the reward, oh, the reward is glorious. You gain intimacy with God. You stop hearing about His power and start experiencing it. You stop living off of other people's faith and start walking in your own fire. You hear His voice clearer. You sense His presence stronger. You walk with confidence, not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. Your life becomes a testimony. People look at you and say, "How are you still standing?" And you respond, "I surrendered." People see your peace and ask, "How are you not falling apart?" And you whisper, "Because I let go and let God." So, if you're tired of the wait, surrender. If you're tired of pretending, surrender. If you're tired of the same cycles, surrender. If you're ready for revival, breakthrough, healing, restoration, it starts with one decision. God, I give you everything. Not just my church attendance, not just my tithes, not just the parts I'm comfortable with. I give you all of me, my past, my pain, my plans, my future, my heart, my habits, my fears, my dreams, my relationships, my pride, my anxiety. I surrender all. And when you do, God will do what only He can do. He will rebuild your ruins. He will lift you from the ashes. He will take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it for good. He will fill your empty places. He will heal the cracks in your soul. He will restore what was lost. He will multiply what was surrendered. Because in God's kingdom, nothing you place in His hands ever stays the same. He breaks it, blesses it, and uses it to feed multitudes, just like He did with the loaves and fish. That's what happens when you fully surrender. Your little becomes much. Your pain becomes purpose. Your struggle becomes your platform. And your life becomes a living sermon of God's grace and glory. So today, right now, don't just watch another video and move on. Let this be your moment. Let this be the shift. Let this be the altar in your living room, your car, your kitchen. Get on your knees and say, "Lord, I surrender. I can't do it my way anymore. I'm done running. I'm done pretending. I surrender." And watch what happens. Watch how peace floods your heart. Watch how doors begin to open. Watch how divine alignment begins to take place. Watch how joy starts to return, because surrender is not about loss. It's about divine exchange. You give God your ashes, and He gives you beauty. You give Him your weakness, and He gives you strength. You give Him your broken pieces, and He builds something eternal. This is what happens when you fully surrender to God. You stop surviving and start living. You stop running and start resting. You stop striving and start soaring. You stop fearing and start flourishing. You stop doubting and start declaring, "My God is able, faithful, and in full control." And that holy surrender is the beginning of a life you never imagined possible. Surrender isn't the end of your story. It's where the real story begins. It's where the veil is lifted, and you begin to see that the things you feared letting go of were actually chains disguised as comfort. It's where you realize that God never asked you to have it all together. He asked you to trust that He already does. When you fully surrender to God, your identity becomes rooted in truth, not performance. You no longer wake up feeling like you have to prove your worth, chase the approval of others, or outrun your past. The voice of the accuser starts to fade, and the voice of the Father becomes louder. You begin to hear Him say, "You are mine. I've called you. I've chosen you. You are not disqualified. You are not forgotten. You are loved." And suddenly, the things that used to keep you up at night no longer hold power over you. You sleep differently when you've surrendered. You walk differently. You love differently. Why? Because when you've given your life into the hands of the Almighty, you know that whatever comes, He's already gone before you. Surrender transforms your reactions. Before, you panicked when problems arose. Now, you pray. Before, you ran to people for answers. Now you run to the throne. Before, you lived in fear of the unknown. Now you walk by faith, knowing that even if you can't see the full picture, God is the master artist painting something beautiful behind the scenes. That's why surrender is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness, because a fully surrendered believer becomes a walking fire of heaven on earth. You become untouchable not because the attacks stop, but because you're no longer trying to fight with human strength. You've learned to kneel, and in that position, you've become victorious. Don't be surprised when God starts removing things and people from your life after you surrender. Sometimes the first evidence of surrender is subtraction, not addition. It may feel like loss, but it's alignment. God isn't taking something from you. He's clearing space for what He's about to bring. You prayed for peace, so He's removing the noise. You asked for growth, so He's cutting off the dead branches. You said, "Use me, Lord." So He's stripping you of pride, fear, and idols because He can't fill what's already full of self. This process is holy. It's painful, but it's necessary. You can't carry old weight into new levels. The cost of surrender is high, but the reward is eternal. You begin to see how God uses even the broken pieces for His glory. That failed relationship, it was protection. That closed door, it was redirection. That wilderness season, it was preparation. Nothing is wasted in the hands of the potter. You stop living for applause and start living for assignment. You stop needing a platform and start building altars. You stop trying to impress the world and start seeking to please the one who gave you breath. That's the beauty of surrender. It reorders your priorities. It removes the noise. It silences the striving. It makes room for the still, small voice that leads you into deeper waters. And the deeper you go, the more you realize surrender is not a one-time moment. It's a daily decision. Every morning you wake up and say, "Not my will, but yours." Every battle, every heartbreak, every dream, you lay it at His feet, not out of fear, but out of faith, because you've come to know that the safest place for your life is in the center of God's will. And the more you surrender, the more He trusts you with. You begin to carry His heart, His burden for others, His fire. Your prayers go from "God bless me" to "God use me." Your dreams shift from success to significance. You start walking in rooms not to be seen, but to carry His presence. You speak life. You heal hearts. You become a vessel of revival, not because of who you are, but because of who you've surrendered to. You'll face battles, but they won't break you. You'll experience trials, but they'll shape you. And through it all, you'll walk with a quiet confidence, because you know, greater is He who is in me than he who is in the world. God will begin to unlock doors you didn't even know existed. You'll find yourself in rooms you didn't qualify for. You'll receive favor that can't be explained. And when people ask, "How did you get here?" you'll say, "I surrendered." You'll look back on your life and see divine fingerprints everywhere. The detours, the delays, the disappointments, all of it was orchestrated by a God who saw the end from the beginning. And you'll know every tear was worth it. Every sacrifice was worth it. Every yes in the dark led you to glory in the light. This is what happens when you fully surrender to God. You find yourself. You find purpose. You find peace that passes understanding. You find a Savior who never left you, even when you walked away. Right now, God is calling someone watching this video to surrender. He's not asking for your perfection. He's not waiting for you to get your act together. He's just saying, "Come, bring me your brokenness. Bring me your questions. Bring me your tired heart. Bring me your sin, your shame, your scars. Lay it down. I can handle it. And if you do, you'll never be the same." Surrender is the soil where miracles grow. It's the key that unlocks revival. It's the beginning of legacy, and it's waiting for you. Let this moment be holy. Turn the volume down on the world, and turn the volume up on His voice. He's not far. He's close. He's been calling you into deeper waters, not to drown you, but to teach you to walk by faith. So take the step, let go, Trust Him. Say it out loud. God, I surrender. And when you say, God, I surrender, something begins to shift in the spirit. Heaven leans in. The chains that wrap themselves around your heart begin to crack. The strongholds that kept you in fear for years begin to crumble. That generational curse that chased your family ends with you, not because you're strong, but because you've placed yourself under the covering of the Almighty. There is a supernatural exchange taking place in the surrender. You're giving God your ashes, and He's handing you a crown of beauty. You're laying down your anxiety, and He's giving you peace that the world cannot manufacture. You're releasing your trauma, and He's bringing restoration. So complete it will confuse the people who watched you suffer. Surrender reintroduces you to yourself, not the version life tried to shape, but the person God originally designed. Suddenly, you remember what it means to dream again, to feel joy, to have hope not tied to circumstances, but rooted in Christ. Your heart begins to beat in sync with His. His desires become your desires. His will becomes your mission. You begin to see through spiritual eyes. You don't panic when storms arise, because you know the one who walks on water is in your boat. You no longer beg for blessings, because you understand that when you're surrendered, you become the blessing. You show up to family gatherings, and the atmosphere shifts. You walk into your job and peace follows you. You pray for a stranger and God moves. Why? Because God flows through what's fully surrendered. That's the secret the enemy doesn't want you to know. It's not about talent. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being famous. God isn't looking for polished vessels. He's looking for available ones. Vessels willing to be poured out. Vessels willing to say yes, even when it costs. Vessels who know that brokenness in the hands of God becomes power in the lives of others. When you fully surrender, God begins to use your story, even the ugly chapters, to set others free. That divorce you thought would destroy you, God uses it to help someone else heal. That addiction you battled in the dark, God redeems it to bring others into the light. That season of depression you never thought you'd escape, God turns it into a well of empathy that ministers to the broken. You start to realize that nothing about your life is wasted. Even the things the enemy used to shame you become testimonies that silence hell. Your life becomes a living epistle, written not with ink, but by the Spirit of the living God. People look at you and see proof that surrender works. And yes, there will be tests. You will still face fire. But when you're surrendered, the fire doesn't burn you, it refines you. You'll still feel the sting of loss, but not the hopelessness. You'll walk through valleys, but you'll never walk alone, because when you've truly surrendered, you begin to know God, not just as a concept, but as a daily, intimate reality. He becomes your refuge, not just your rescuer, your source, not just your supplement. You stop running to Him only when life collapses. You start walking with Him in every moment, and this constant connection becomes your greatest treasure. When you surrender your time, He redeems it. When you surrender your gifts, He multiplies them. When you surrender your finances, He provides in ways that make no sense on paper. When you surrender your future, He opens doors you didn't even knock on. That's the kind of God He is. So, what's holding you back? Is it fear? Remember, fear is just faith in the wrong direction. When you surrender, God replaces your fear with boldness. Is it pride? Surrender humbles you in the best way, not to tear you down, but to lift you higher in His strength. Is it control? Let go. Because the more you grip what you can't fix, the more peace slips through your fingers. Is it disappointment? Give Him your wounds. He knows betrayal. He knows what it's like to be misunderstood, rejected, and abandoned. And yet, He still surrendered, because love surrenders. And that's the key. Love surrenders. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. Jesus could have called legions of angels to stop the crucifixion, but He surrendered. For you, for me, for the ones who still doubt, still run, still wander. And His surrender changed history. So now it's your turn. Will you surrender your life fully and completely? Not halfway, not when it's convenient, not just in church, but in every area of your existence. Your relationships, your mindset, your habits, your plans. Because once you surrender, you will never settle again. You'll never settle for shallow. When you've tasted the deep things of God, you'll never settle for performance. When you've encountered His presence, you'll never settle for crumbs. When you've sat at the King's table, God is raising up a generation who is not afraid to surrender. A remnant who says, we don't want hype, we want Him. We don't want a name, we want His glory. We don't want the spotlight, we want the secret place. And you, my friend, are part of that remnant. You're not watching this by accident. God is drawing you. He's stirring something inside you. That stirring is non-emotion. It's invitation. An invitation to a deeper walk, a greater fire, a life fully yielded. Say yes. Say yes when it's uncomfortable. Say yes when you don't have all the answers. Say yes when it costs you your pride, your plans, your logic. Say yes, because what God has on the other side of surrender is greater than anything you're trying to hold onto. Revival starts with surrender. Purpose is unlocked through surrender. Peace is sustained in surrender. This is not just a message. It's a call. It's a divine encounter. It's God saying, I'm ready to do something new in you, but I need your yes. So, what will you choose? Right now, close your eyes. Lift your hands. Whisper the words heaven's been waiting for. God, I surrender. And when you whisper those words, God, I surrender, the heavens move. The atmosphere around you begins to shift. Chains that wrapped around generations begin to break. Spiritual walls begin to fall. Angels begin to war on your behalf. That simple yet powerful declaration shakes the gates of hell, because the devil loses all control over a heart that belongs completely to God. You may not feel different at first. The world around you may look the same, but something has changed inside you, something eternal. Surrender rewires your spirit. It changes how you think, how you speak, how you see the world. You are no longer driven by fear, ego, or comparison. You are now led by the Spirit of God. And the Holy Spirit doesn't just guide you, He empowers you. You start to walk in boldness you never knew you had. You begin to hear His voice in ways that used to be foreign. You begin to discern what is from Him and what is not. His conviction becomes your compass. His word becomes your weapon. His presence becomes your priority. Surrender silences the noise. It removes the spiritual static that kept you from hearing Him clearly. It positions you for downloads from heaven, divine strategy, supernatural wisdom, heavenly insight. You're no longer leaning on your own understanding. Now you're walking by revelation, not information. Suddenly, you find yourself walking in peace, even in chaos. You find yourself loving people who once triggered you. You're no longer offended so easily. Why? Because the surrendered soul doesn't have time to carry offense. It's too busy carrying purpose. People will notice. They may ask, what happened to you? And you'll say, I stopped running. I stopped hiding. I stopped pretending. I gave it all to Jesus. And they'll see it. The fire in your eyes, the calm in your spirit, the joy that's not tied to circumstance. That's what surrender does. It radiates. Your surrendered life becomes the evidence that Jesus is real. People won't need a sermon. They'll see Him in you. The way you serve without seeking credit. The way you forgive without demanding apology. The way you keep loving when it's not returned. All of it points back to the one who lives inside you. And as God begins to trust you with more, you'll realize that surrender was never about losing control. It was about gaining kingdom authority. You were never meant to carry it all. You were meant to release it. And in releasing it, you step into supernatural alignment with heaven's agenda for your life. Opportunities you didn't chase will find you. Blessings you didn't strive for will overtake you. People will show up who are assigned to your destiny, not to distract you, but to run with you. Why? Because surrender attracts divine connections. You'll look around one day and realize you are living a life you once only dreamed of, not because it's perfect, but because it's purposeful. And in that place of surrender, even the pain has meaning, even the waiting has value. Even the wilderness feels like holy ground. Surrender also unlocks supernatural protection. You're not fighting battles alone anymore. God goes before you. He becomes your shield, your defender, your strong tower. The weapons may form, but they won't prosper. The storm may rise, but it won't drown you. You are hidden in Him now, and hell cannot touch what is covered by the blood. Do you know how powerful that is? Do you know how unstoppable a surrendered believer becomes? You stop reacting and start responding by the Spirit. You stop worrying and start worshiping. You stop doubting and start declaring the Word. You become a thermostat in the Spirit, not reacting to the atmosphere, but shifting it everywhere you go. And the more you surrender, the more God trusts you with kingdom secrets. He'll begin to show you things before they happen. He'll give you prophetic insight, spiritual discernment, and divine strategies. He'll give you burdens that lead you to intercession. He'll use your voice to break chains off others, not because you're perfect, but because you're yielded. This is the life you were created for, not a life of spiritual mediocrity, not a life of lukewarm faith, not a life where you just go to church, check a box, and go home unchanged. You were made to walk with God in the cool of the day, to hear His voice, to carry His fire, to impact nations, even if it's one soul at a time. And it all starts with surrender, the kind of surrender that says, God, I trust you even when I don't understand, the kind that prays, God, break anything in me that keeps me from you, the kind that cries out, not my way, Lord, yours, even if it hurts. Because true surrender might hurt at first, but it heals. It might stretch you, but it strengthens you. It might cost you comfort, but it releases your calling. You may cry during the process, but you'll rejoice in the promise, because God is faithful to honor what is surrendered to Him. He's not playing with your life. He's not careless with your heart. He is the potter, and every piece you give Him, He shapes with love, fire, and intention. And maybe today is your moment, not tomorrow, not next week, right now. God is waiting. Will you give Him everything? Your past, your shame, your trauma, your gifts, your calling, your desires, your expectations, your life. He can handle it. And in return, He will give you purpose, power, peace, and His presence without measure. Because that's what happens when you fully surrender. You don't lose. You win in ways you never imagined.